Hi, how are you doing? Tony here. Somebody asked me on the forum, you know, isn't this arrangement with the Soundcraft EQ, if I take the top band, run the Q right down here, well, by golly, I have a shelf. Well, not precisely, because the shelf isn't cornering at the frequency I specify. So let's say, for instance, I want a shelf at roughly around 5K or 6K or something like that. Um, the corner should be right in the middle of where I place the grab handle. It should be here. Instead, in this arrangement that was recommended to me, the corner is way down here between 500 cycles and a K. That's not what I want when I have a shelf EQ. To illustrate my point, let me go to Presonus' Studio Live, which I also have in the studio here, and the beauty of their arrangement is that it as well is a four-band EQ, but you can select on the bottom. Let me turn off this high pass filter, just so I can illustrate my point here. So here's the bell, like you would see on the Soundcraft by DBX EQ, but I can switch this over, and now it's a shelf. But get this, look where the corner happens. The corner happens right where my grab handle is. In other words, if I want to do something at between 6 and 7K, that's where the corner is happening. Same with the low shelf. If I want to have a low shelf, again, a feature we don't have in the Soundcraft, I just want to have that big juicy bottom end that you get with a low shelf. The corner is right where I have the grab handle. Go back to the Soundcraft arrangement. Well, I just don't have that. And which is fine, actually. This is I'm sure it wasn't a processing uh, conservation choice. I think it was, they wanted to separate themselves from the pack and have a more vintagey EQ. And I'll tell you something, in many instances, um, it works in a very lovely, vintagey kind of way. But I think those of us that are, I mean, obviously, when I'm in the studio, I've got piles of plugins that EQ precisely the way I want them to for the specific application I have at that moment. Um, but I'm just wondering out loud here if this might be taking the vintage thing a little too far, in that they're crippling options uh, that are probably more important to us in a live music circumstance. And I'm just floating that out there. But anyway, just to answer what's happening here, again, I repeat, do what you said, flatten out the Q. Yes, I have a quasi shelf, but the problem is the actual corner is happening, and even if I move it right to the top, right to 22K, the corner of our makeshift shelf is happening way down here at about 1.5K. I ain't gonna cut it. The As far as dialing in the kind of bottom end that I sometimes want, yeah, I guess if I just kind of juiced up the cube, but look what happens once again is that extends way too far up the line. Then I have to use up my other grab handles to try and correct for these things. Nah, it's just it's wrong. They can do they can do that. They can do that better. Another thing that I would like to see while we're on the subject of what we'd like to see better, perhaps on another firmware update. We go to the master for a section. Here's a graphic EQ, and that's great. It's a graphic EQ. It's a third octave. It's fine. Fine is fine. What would be kind of nice to have, oh, by the way, also kudos, I like the sliding high pass filter and low pass filter. That can help fix a lot of problems right out of the gate really quickly, especially in a boomy room. You can just dial out the boom like that. That's wonderful. Like it. Let's go the extra step. And let's put a button here, right there. It's a draw function where we can kind of draw in the curve. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This has been done elsewhere. Oh, who else has done that? Could it be these guys? Check this out. So I can kind of draw in with the PreSonus graphics roughly where I know I want my tone and sound to be, and then I can go in and make fine adjustments on a band per band basis. But I can kind of get a start that way, and worth checking that out. It's a good idea. Another thing that you can do with the PreSonus digital mixers and the Mackeys is you can work, because they apply a fat channel to the main outs as well, to the main out and the auxiliary outputs, as you can see there. But to the main out, you can go in and get kind of an overall tone shape with your parametric EQ, and then you can go to the graphic EQ and notch out if you want to use this. I mean, you can notch out with the parametric as well, but you've got two options there. Hey, everything else is going so good on this Soundcraft. I know you don't want to be like everybody else, but there's a couple of instances that it's okay. You can be like everybody else. I give you permission. Do these two things. Give us a draw on the graphic EQ. Give us an overlaid parametric on those outputs. And what else was I thinking? Oh yeah, I know you didn't implement any MIDI ins and outs on the on this blue box, on this gorgeous blue box, but why not use one of those USB inputs when you're working with a guitarist who's taking advantage of all those lovely simulations of guitar amps and that type of thing? Well, it'd be nice to have a stomp box that the guitarist can go in and work with it like it was a real rig. And anyway, that might be a kind of a cool idea. Certainly way down the list of priorities, I know. But kudos to you guys. You've designed a terrific little box here, and by that I mean the sonics are just superb. I don't know what voodoo is in there in terms of the kind of converters, both A to D and D to A, or more importantly than which brand of converter chips, how you've actually implemented them, the work you got out of your Studer division on these outstanding mic pre's. They are fat. They sound like there's a transformer. I know there isn't because the thing's too light to have 20 transformers in there, but it's got the fat beef that you get with some iron, and that's cool. I dig that. So much to like about this mixer. There's a couple of little things that you can keep working on to tweak this thing through, and this will become the standard. This will become the one that everybody trades in their XR18s and XR32s and whatever else they're using. They'll want this. So anyway, keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to seeing all those ideas of mine implemented in the next 30 days. 30 days. Right.